This video is about negative SEO, which stands for negative search engine optimization. Um, a negative SEO attack is basically the opposite of SEO. So in SEO, what happens is website owners try to get their websites to rank as high as possible on Google search engines. Whereas uh, in the case of a negative SEO attack, the attackers tries to uh, de-rank your website, or in other words, rank your website as low as possible in the search engines, and eventually have it removed from the search engines if possible. I mean, that happens in extreme cases. In case, well, actually, one of our websites actually got removed from Bing because of that, and it took us a while for us to um, fix that. So I've been wanting to make this video for a long time now because, firstly, there has to be a lot of awareness about these kind of cyber attacks. Most of the time, business owners don't think about what could possibly go wrong, or the um, possible uh, uh, consequences of a cyber attack on their websites. Um, many times, small business owners think that their company is too small to be attacked by cyber criminals, but that's really not the case. Co- Criminals are criminals, so if they see websites ranking better than them, then that becomes a target. Um, Unfortunately, we went through that experience um, I mean, starting November 2021, and the negative SEO attacks that started then um, continue still this day, and it took us a while for us to identify the criminals behind the attack and get and initiate the whole legal and all those kind of processes. Anyways, let's get back to the topic and take a look at what is a negative SEO attack and what are the components of a negative SEO attack. Um, Hacking and defacing websites is one of the components of a negative SEO attack. So the attackers try to exploit any vulnerabilities in the target website, and they try to gain access um, to the core files of the website, or they might even try to deface the website. Especially um, websites made with WordPress might be vulnerable if precautions are not taken, because a lot of plugins are used, and some of these plugins might have some vulnerability which may be uh, leveraged by the attackers. Contact forms are the other possible entry points, because sometimes it so happens that these contact forms are misconfigured, or there might be an error in configuration for some reason, and if the attackers find these vulnerabilities, then they obviously try to gain access into the website's core files. So once the attacker gains access to the core files of the website, then they can do pretty much anything. They might try to um, deface the website, or simply delete the files, and so to cause as much damage as possible. Malware injection is one of the most common things they do. Once they get access, then it's up to them to decide what they want to do. They might place malware, they might place backdoors, so that they can come back to the website later. Basically, they'll try to do whatever possible to maintain access. So once you find out that your website has been, compromised, then you'll have to be very careful if you want to use the same files. but there are tools specifically meant to remove these kind of malware. So you can find a lot of them online. I'm not going to discuss that portion right now, but let's go ahead and look at the other components. Traffic redirection and URL manipulation is another component of the attack. So the like I told you earlier, the objective of a negative SEO attack is to make sure that your website doesn't load, or it's defaced, or it's seen to be in violation of search engine policies, and eventually, to get it removed from the search engines. Um, Traffic redirection attacks are very common. I'll try and show you some examples of these kind of attacks. SEO stealing SEO benefits. So let's say that your website is ranking well in the search engine and has been subject to a negative SEO attack. The attackers can try to exploit the ranking of your website for their benefit. From our own example, what happened was they placed backlinks from our websites to their website, and they try to hide it with a simple display none CSS attribute, which we eventually found out because we were going through the code, and we identified that in no time. In fact, we use the domain name to track these guys down. I'll show you the pictures of these guys, the cyber criminal gang who actually carry out these kind of attacks. DDoS attacks are very common. This just means they'll keep hitting your website with continuous stream of traffic, so that your web server is unable to take the load and it crashes eventually. But generally, I think all websites these days, mostly they use Cloudflare. If you're not using Cloudflare, I think you better start doing it as soon as possible, because Cloudflare gives you a lot of protection against DDoS attacks. The best thing about Cloudflare is you can monitor traffic coming in real time. You can see which IP address is coming from which location, and what are the URLs they're trying to access on your website, and what is the user agent they're using. So is that a real valid traffic, or is that not a valid traffic? So you can observe all of that if you're using Cloudflare. There are alternatives to Cloudflare, so it doesn't mean that you just have to use Cloudflare, but Cloudflare is good. But there are alternatives as well, but they're all paid. And the advantage of using Cloudflare is you can do a ton of things with their free plan. They offer a very generous free plan, and it's for most small websites, I think that should be good. Email spamming is another one. So if these attackers get to know your email ID, then chances are they'll keep spamming your mail server, so that you get difficulty in figuring out the real legitimate traffic from the spammy ones. And um, we don't want to be opening any email with malicious attachments. So I'll be telling you about how to handle that situation probably in another video. Indexing attacks are another component of negative SEO. So what happens here is the attackers send URLs, like in hundreds, thousands of URLs, junk URLs which don't exist in your website and which are not even reflected in your sitemaps. So they send this kind of traffic to the search engines and try to get it indexed. And in very in some cases it does happen, unless you're very careful with setting the canonical links to your web pages, and you're tracking what's happening to your website, and the kind of traffic that you're getting. So you should be if you're a website owner, then you should be um, observing what's going on in Google Search Console. And if you're using uh, SEMrush, I think I would suggest to use SEMrush because it gives you a lot of information. SEMrush is not free, but they have a small free portion that should be sufficient for generally small companies. But if you can afford to subscribe for their services, which is like pretty expensive, I think they cost over $100 a month. So if you can afford it, that's go for it. But you can do another thing. You can probably subscribe to their services for a month, and then well, align your website to the best practices, and then you can stop it after a month and then use it whenever or as required. So that's something that you can do, or you can share it with your you can take a combined, subscription with a colleague, or with the with a friend, so that everybody can use it. So that was just a couple of suggestions, but I generally use the free plan on SEMrush, and I use Cloudflare, and I also watch what's going on in Google Search Console. Hotlink attacks are another component of negative SEO attacks. So what happens here is the attackers take the URLs from the images on your website and place them in all kinds of junk, spammy websites, which may be related to drugs or porn or whatever it is. But basically, they place it in on websites which is not connected in any way to your website. The idea is that they want your website to appear like it's generating backlinks from poor quality websites. And every time somebody opens that a page that contains your um, the URL to your image, it just wastes bandwidth from on your account with your hosting provider. So let's say if there are small companies who are on a limited bandwidth, or a bandwidth quota every month, and if you run into one of these, then you might end up wasting your bandwidth, and eventually legitimate visitors may not be able to see your website, and that could result in loss of revenue to you. Resource bandwidth theft by continuously sending requests to your website. They use rotating proxies and the VPNs and all kinds of virtual private servers. So this could be uh, it could be basically an irritation, because if you're using a service like Cloudflare, you can see all of this. And when you're watching the kind of traffic that's hitting your website, then you will know, or over a period of time, you will learn to recognize the legitimate traffic from the bad ones. And you can use the Cloudflare wireless access firewall to block unwanted traffic. So I'll probably make a different video on how to do that. But let's move on to the next component, which is 404 errors. So uh, this is basically a continuation of the previous component. So when the attackers send all kind of junk traffic to you, um, most of the URLs that they show in that traffic won't even exist on your website. So what happens in that case is that your website will start throwing up 404 error, and if it happens continuously, then your search engine might think you're not serving relevant content and might decide to de-rank you. So you got to be very careful in this situation. Moving on, creating spammy hyperlinks from link farms and private blogging networks. Um, these are very common in a negative SEO attack. So, like I told you, all these components of a negative SEO attack, they happen simultaneously, and this component, especially creating spammy hyperlinks from link farms and private blogging networks, this is done in a drip feed format, which means they don't do they don't create like a ton of links from these kind of websites at one time. So they drip feed it, which means in one day they might create five, and next day they might create 10, another day they might create two. The idea is they'll try to do things in such a way that they don't get caught easily by the website owners. Uh, so that's why we should be very careful if you're running a website or a business that or an online business that requires your products and services to be sold through your website. So, what are the symptoms of a negative SEO attack? Um, you might find your uh, website has suddenly lost traffic, and the number of people visiting your website might suddenly drop, or you might find some of your top loading pages may not be loading in the browser, or uh, you might not even find your website in search engines in in extreme cases. And sometimes you might also find your website has suddenly slowed down, then and takes a long time to load. So these are some of the symptoms of a negative SEO attack. So you should be very careful about monitoring the traffic to your websites and the backlinks so that you're not taken by surprise. Especially in case where you're running you're running multiple websites, then each of your websites must be monitored for all of these problems. So negative SEO is literally sold openly online. So um, I took some screenshots so you can take a look. Now, these are some of the packages of negative SEO attack. Now, I want to be very clear here. Negative SEO is a cyber crime, right? So if you're going to be paying money to somebody else, or if you're offering a service to somebody else where and you collect money to take down somebody else's business by attacking their websites, then that's a crime. There are specific sections of law in the Indian IT Act, and you could end up getting prosecuted for that. Yeah, but the one thing is, our law enforcement, our cyber law enforcement in India is still um, uh, pretty low. I think, let me say that. I think it's still pretty low, or and we're still in the old Stone Age when it comes to cyber law enforcement. I have a different story about that. In fact, I could tell you about what happened to us. So, but that would make this video too long. So I would suggest you go to techsilver.com and go to the blog section and take a look at those some of the articles that we published about how we handled a negative SEO attack and what it took for us to find out about it. Um, Here's another one. This is another negative SEO service offered by cyber criminals. Uh, look at the um, look at the number of packages these guys are offering. So they call it Neutron Blast, Pulsar Blast, Supernova, Hypernova, and Cosmic. So irrespective of the type of packages or the fancy names that these guys are showing you. This is basically a cyber crime. So you got to be very careful about protecting your own website. And if you're a service provider, don't fall for the temptation to offer black hat SEO services, because that's where it starts. Um, People might ask you for black hat SEO services, and then that might move on to the next level, which is a negative SEO attack. So it's always good to stay away from these kind of situations.